into the dust. Today, we're going off the archaeological beaten path, because we've all heard quite enough about the big archaeological sites like the pyramids, Machu Picchu, and the Colosseum, haven't we?
I don't know what they mean.
Don't get me wrong, they are amazing, which is why they're so famous. However, there is a whole hidden underworld of underrated and underappreciated archaeological sites that are also amazing and deserve a visit from you. And I try to feature some of these in my site visit series. Get ready, because we are covering the first half of my top 10 most underrated archaeological treasures that will blow your mind. It might just make you rethink your next travel plans. So without further ado, let's dig in. Pun intended. And let me know in the comments section any that you think I overlooked. Our first stop, Herculaneum, Italy. While Pompeii gets all the press, Herculaneum is in general much better preserved, which is why it is the place for details that are not as well preserved at Pompeii, like upper stories of houses, better preserved frescoes, food, wooden balconies and furniture, like this wooden cradle.
Cradle! Did you hear that, my pet?
I know, unbelievable stuff like that survived, right? That's because Herculaneum is right in the shadow of the volcano, whereas Pompeii is 15 kilometers or 9 miles away, meaning Herculaneum was covered much faster at higher temperatures under 80 feet or 24 meters of ash, 4 times as much as Pompeii. But because Herculaneum is smaller and still largely buried, with a modern town right on top of a lot of it, it is much less known, and therefore way less crowded. You can stroll through the ruins without constantly photobombing somebody's Instagram. So if you're in Italy, make sure to stop by Herculaneum, and honestly, if I was crunched for time, I'd go for Herculaneum before Pompeii. Now we're heading to Carnac in Brittany, France. You've heard of Stonehenge, but what if I told you Carnac has over 3,000 of those mysterious prehistoric stones? Most are solitary standing stones called menhirs, and they've been standing there for at least 7,000 years, so that's 2,000 years older than Stonehenge. These stones are arranged in fascinating patterns, some in long, straight rows, others in circular formations, and stretch for kilometers. However, there are also dolmens, which have horizontal slabs on top of others that served as chamber tombs. No shortage of those here. There are also cairns, piled stones in pillars or as tombs as well. Unless I'm mistaken, there are none remaining standing right on the grounds, but plenty nearby in Brittany. No one knows for sure why they were put up, but they're certainly not a calendar like people say Stonehenge was. They're definitely not the remains of a giant temple like people used to think, and they are absolutely not the work of the wizard Merlin, as per local legend. While you're in the neighborhood, you certainly are not going to find the crowds of Paris here, but one thing you will find is charming little villages perched alongside Brittany's wild, rocky coast. But splurge for the tour, it's worth it. Otherwise, it's just going to be a lot of stones for you. Oh, and be sure to make it to the nearby prehistoric museum, where you can learn about some of the excavations and see the artifacts, as well as some carved stones. Oh, and if you want the in-depth scoop, watch my site visit to Carnac on this channel. Next, we head way up to Orkney, the rugged northern islands of Scotland, where we find Skara Brae, sort of an ancient apartment building like none you've ever seen. Skara Brae is so well preserved it basically looks like the inhabitants went on a coffee break and never came back. We're talking furniture, beds, even storage shelves, all from 5,000 years ago. That's older than the frickin' pyramids, folks. Discovered in 1850 after storm erosion revealed some of its hidden remains, Skara Brae is sometimes known as the Scottish Pompeii due to its incredible preservation. It is amazing, but let's not get carried away. It is definitely not Pompeii. It's something different. It's actually a village consisting of 8 clustered houses connected by passageways. Your visit will give you an intimate look into how people 5,000 years ago lived, worked, and even stored their food. It will also remind you that people have been struggling with closet organization for 5,000 years, but the minimalist style here would make even Marie Kondo proud.
Choose items that spark joy for you.
Spark joy.
And while you're there, take advantage of the fact that Orkney is an archaeological theme park. Take time to explore the nearby Ring of Brodgar and the standing stones of Senis, other iconic Neolithic landmarks in Orkney. If you visit, remember to bring your sturdy boots. This is Scotland, so mud and rain are part of the charm. And get yourself ready to dig into a heaping helping of haggis. When it comes to archaeology, North America, or at least America north and east of Mexico and the desert southwest, gets a bum rep. The people there were largely nomadic or lived in small settlements and built with wood, so there's nothing left of that, right?
Wrong!
Enter Poverty Point, Louisiana, a dozen miles inland from the Mississippi River. It's a massive earthen complex built starting 3,700 years ago by indigenous peoples. And you heard that right, 3,700 years, older than the Aztecs and the Incas. Picture towering mounds and semicircular ridges meticulously sculpted by hand, covering an area of over 400 acres. Arrayed in a semicircular pattern, there are 6 concentric ridges with a giant man-made earthen mound behind and a central plaza in the middle. It really looks like a sporting stadium, but much bigger. And a site that big might have taken as long as a century to build, so this place is definitely a labor of love. But what was Poverty Point? Well, no one really knows for sure. It seems to have been periodically occupied, and there were structures on the tops of the ridges. Moreover, there were exotic artifacts found on site that came from as far away as the Great Lakes, the Gulf Coast, and the Appalachian Mountains. This suggests an extensive trade network and advanced social organization. And another thing that makes Poverty Point so odd is they are examples of monumental architecture in an otherwise sparsely populated, decentralized human environment, similar to the Tripilia sites in what is now Ukraine. These megasites share many of the same features, though they're even older, with earliest occupation around 5500 BC, so that's more than 7,000 years ago. But anyway, that's another story. I would not recommend visiting those anytime soon for obvious reasons. The oddness of all this caught the attention of Graham Hancock, who has certain theories about how and why ancient people around the world built these ginormous sites. No comment on his hypotheses, but really hats off to Graham Hancock for featuring this site, which like no one had ever heard of before he began covering it. Poverty Point, Louisiana. Poor in name, rich in archaeology. Sticking in the US and with the mounds theme, we're headed due north some 500 miles or 800 kilometers to the Cahokia Mounds, Illinois. Now, like many archaeological sites, it might not look like that much. It's a pile of earth. But at its peak around 1200 AD, it looked much more like this. First developed about 1,000 years ago and home to 10 to 20,000 inhabitants spread out over 6 square miles or 15 square kilometers, this was the largest city in pre-Columbian America north of Mexico and larger than London at the same time period. Falsely named after the Cahokia people who roamed the area long after the site's abandonment, the Native Americans who called the city home are known as the Mississippians. That one massive mound known as Monk's Mound was a pyramid, the largest earthen structure in the Americas, standing about 100 feet high and covering 14 acres. Essentially, it's the North American version of Egypt's Great Pyramid. But surrounding it were over 100 smaller mounds used for religious, administrative, and elite residential and burial purposes. I'm avoiding the R word. Perhaps my favorite feature on the site is known as Woodhenge, a round placement of posts which mirrors exactly that of other older Woodhenges found in the UK, including one right next to Stonehenge. So while Graham Hancock may be a little bit off with his explanations and hypotheses, the parallels we see among cultures across time and space truly are remarkable. The city fell out of use around the year 1400 AD, but left a big mark on Native American society, with many current-day tribes and peoples recognizing the site as important to their cultural heritage and oral tradition. Even after ancient apocalypse, most Americans have never heard of the site. So when you're next in St. Louis, make sure to head out there. You'll probably have the place to yourself or a lot of it. Alright, so those are my top picks for North America and Europe. It is totally subjective though, so please let me know in the comments below if you think I've left something out or you've come up with something different. Be nice though. Hey, if you like what you heard, give me that thumbs up below, hit that bell to subscribe, or if you want to support more independent archaeology content, consider contributing to my Patreon, where you can enjoy some exclusive members-only benefits and other goodies. Until the next dig.